Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Blue Sunday. As you can tell, we've obviously had a wind. We've got that beautiful lily of Laguna playing in the background. How are you today, Vince?
I'm good, Joe.
Down a bit. Let me turn it down
very
a bit.
loud.
Yes.
5 in a row.
That's what happens when you're not organised and I'm being pushed everywhere. So anyway,
you're not organised? No, never.
Nah, I don't know if you can see, but it's just bucketing rain, and I had to get the laundry in, and my missus is here. It's driving me mad. Anyway,
I'm sure our listeners really care about that.
Of course they do.
Or our viewers, I should say.
Of course they do.
Good evening, everyone.
So anyway,
Great to have you with us tonight.
Yes. So anyway, let me get the intro doing. I'm going to get there. So hello, everyone, and welcome to Blue Sunday. As of course, my name is Joseph Luzza. I'm coming to you from Bangkok, Thailand, where the weather is just about to start bucketing down. So I'm lucky I'm at home. And joining me in Melbourne, as usual, is my co-host, Carlton Life member and former president of the Carltonians, which is a coterie group, Mr. Vince Loccisano. How are you, Vince?
Good evening, Joe. Good to see you. And good evening, everyone. I'm sure everyone's feeling nice and positive and riding high on the back of 5 consecutive wins over 50 points. How long has it been since anyone's done that?
I don't know.
5
Vince.
consecutive wins over 50 or 50 points or more.
That's one for our viewers. They might want to look that up. Anyway. All right, let's get the formalities done first, Vince, then we'll get into it. So, as you know, this is a Facebook and YouTube show, and it's essential that the viewers contribute. So we would like people to like and subscribe us on Facebook at Blue Sunday, and on YouTube it's at The Jumper Punch. Very confusing, but I know our viewers, I was nearly going to say listeners, they're all smart. They're all smart and intelligent people, so they'll understand the difference. Blue Sunday comes to you on the Jumper Punch channel. So please don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell your friends. The next formality, don't forget, the show is brought to you by my tour company, Retired Working for You Tours. So we are here in Bangkok. Are you getting feedback? No. I could hear some feedback. No, sorry about that. And so if you're thinking of coming to Thailand, please get on there. It's got my email address. You don't have to come on the tour. I can do a separate tour for you. But, come to Thailand, but not just at the moment because it is the wet season, but it's still hot. Vince, as usual, we want this is a show for the viewers. It's not just you and me and our special comments guest, Mr. Peter Brown. We like people to contribute. As you can see last week, I even put up comments that are bad about me. So I don't care. It's a show. You can call me a goose. You can call me whatever you want. Andy, I'm trying to get it together, mate. So, get into me. Anyway, before we get into the game, we've introduced a meme and a funny photo of the week. Here's one that amused me during the week, Vince. In my generation, we had Wonder Woman. Your generation, you have to wonder if it is a woman. So I'll let that one go through to the keeper.
I'll take Linda Carter on the left any day, thank you.
Any day. That the one on the right, that's an American swimmer, isn't it?
Yes.
Who's
I think I'm not sure what the original name of this person was, but it is now Leah Thomas, who went from being something like 670 something in the world as a male swimmer to becoming the number 1 female swimmer overnight and winning gold medal after gold medal because they allowed her to compete with biological women.
Do I
need to say more?
No, I saw something funny about that during the week, but I'm going to let it go because I know we'll upset someone. This funny photo of the week the paper bag man is back. Look, he's got all the finals that Essendon have been in, and they're all crossed out. I think you might. I don't even know if you'll get there in 2023.
Well, I'll tell you what, the way they're going, it's looking a bit shaky. They're out of the final 8 at the moment, so they're going to have to turn things around in the next 5 weeks, that's for sure.
Certainly. One last one I saw today while shopping. This was a motto at a donut shop. I am chubby, but I am fat. I am chubby, but I'm happy.
I'm chubby, but I'm happy. Well, some people are, and some people are
anyway.
not.
What, happy or chubby?
Well, some people are chubby, but they're not happy either. And some people are happy, but they're not chubby. I don't know. Anyway.
Hang on. Here's one about the Leah Thomas. But you Liberals support this kind of perversion. I do not support anything.
Really?
I support the Carlton Football Club. That's it. That's where I don't have any political alliances. I never talk politics. I don't care. People can go do whatever they want. Yep. Just leave me the hell out of it and leave me alone. Anyway.
Well,
we're here to talk football, Vince. So it all started on Friday night.
Indeed. What a great game this was by the Western Bulldogs.
Beautiful, wasn't it? Wasn't it beautiful watching Essendon lose?
Well, they didn't get off to the best start. I mean, Essendon got off to a pretty good start in the first quarter, kicking 3-2 to 1-3. But after that, the Doggies just showed how much they really wanted it and how much they really want to be in the finals this year. They went and kicked 6 goals to 2 in the second, 2 goals to 1 in the third, then ran away kicking 4 goals to 1 in the last quarter. So I don't think the Essendon hierarchy were all that happy with the way the team finished off this game. But nevertheless, they're going to be licking their wounds. The Western Bulldogs 13-12-90 to Essendon 7-7-49. A big 41-point victory to the Doggies and cements them into the bottom part of the 8.
Let's go to Saturday. Close. Richmond bloody get over the line in these close games, don't they? I my heart out for Hawthorn.
I was following the scores on this game. I didn't watch it, but I thought, geez, looks like Hawthorn's going to claim another big scalp like they did with Brisbane a few weeks ago. But in the end, Richmond kicked 5 goals, 3 to only 2 points in that last quarter to get over the line by 1 point. Could you believe it? Anyway, Richmond kicked less goals, 14-12-96 to Hawthorn, 15 goals, 5-95, and a heartbreaking loss for the Hawks. But you've got to say there's a little bit of admiration, I think, here for Sam Mitchell in playing a lot of these young kids and being daring and taking risks with his team. And I think they're probably setting themselves up to have a pretty good year next year. So, they're obviously building for the future. But Richmond, that keeps them in the hunt for the 8.
Lucky Brendan Bolton's not there. He'd be talking green shoots and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, the next match.
There's plenty of those green shoots over there in Thailand, I believe, Joe.
It's everywhere. It's legal. Anyway, the next game.
Now, this was an absolute beauty in terms of a contest. I don't know about the total quality of play because it was a bit wet and slippery, but I watched this game and it was a fantastic effort by the Brisbane Lions, 9-10-64 to defeat Geelong, the reigning premiers, 7-11-53, keep their home match record intact. They haven't been beaten there at the Gabba for quite a long time. They haven't been beaten there this year. And they cemented their spot in the top 3. So a good comeback after losing that game to Melbourne last week. A similar situation happened here where they could have lost this game. Geelong came back hard at them, but they this time stemmed the flow and managed to get in by 11 points. 9-10-64 to 7-11-53.
Just quickly, we're getting a few comments about Carlton and next week. Don't worry, people. We will get to them. We're just going to get through the results.
Absolutely.
And then when we bring on our special guest,
we'll talk all things Carlton.
Exactly. Next. Didn't really care who won this.
Really? I thought it was an absolutely sensational game, worthy of a grand final.
Didn't know who to, I didn't know who to support. I hate both of them.
Well, I think most Carlton supporters would have been sort of going for Port Adelaide, really.
I was just hoping that they'd hurt people, like
probably we wanted them all to fall over,
but leg or something. But
look, it was a brave effort by Port Adelaide, but yet again, Collingwood, in the circumstances, found a way to win. You've got to take your hat off to them. They really do know how to play these tight games well. Must have an enormous amount of self-belief. 13 goals, 785 to Port Adelaide, 12-11-83 by 2 points, and they maintain their top position on the ladder and are now 2 games clear plus percentage. So you'd have to say, really, they've got top spot pretty much sewn up.
I just want to wipe that smile off that bloody Craig McRae's face. Anyway.
Then we had a game at Optus Stadium in Perth. The hapless Fremantle Dockers, I think they're in a lot of trouble here. 12 goals, 476. Defeated by the Sydney Swans. 16 goals, 9, 105 by 29 points. And that keeps Sydney's chances of making the final 8 alive as well. But Fremantle, it's season over. And I dare say if there's another coach under pressure, it would, in my opinion, be Justin Longmuir. I wouldn't even be surprised if the Fremantle hierarchy make a call on him by the end of the season.
Could well do. Do. Next game.
The next game was today at Manuka Oval in Canberra. It's a fantastic victory by the GWS Giants. Gold Coast kept up with them for a half, but then they put them to the sword in the second half, the GWS Giants, and ran away with it. 15-13, 103 to Gold Coast, 9-9-63.
Yeah, okay. All right, this would have been a good game.
That probably means season over for Gold Coast as well now.
Probably. This would have been a good game.
This was a great game today at the MCG, and Melbourne, geez, they've learned how to win the close ones in the last couple of weeks. Fell over the line against Adelaide, who were playing for their season and threw everything but the kitchen sink at Melbourne today. But the Demons were too good. 14-13, 97 to the Adelaide Crows, 13-15, 93.
And in the game that just finished?
In the game that just finished, this is the second time that St Kilda have gotten over the line by 8 points over one of the 2 bottom teams. About 4 weeks ago, I think it was, they beat West Coast over in Perth by 8 points. And today they fell over the line again here. When I say fell over the line, they actually had to make up a pretty significant deficit at three-quarter time of 17 points. But they found a way to get over the line today, 9-15, 69 to North Melbourne, who just ran out of puff, I think, in the end. 9 goals, 761. A brave effort by North, but yet another loss, and I think that's 16 in a row now.
And the game that we're all interested in, Vince?
Yep, this is the one that we're all here for. Carlton scooping the pool when it comes to kicking for goal. 21 goals. 14, 140, defeating the West Coast Eagles, 10-9-69. And when you look at the halftime score, 15-8, 98, nearly cracked the ton by halftime. To the West Coast Eagles, only 2 goals, 4-16. It was an 82-point deficit at halftime after being 57 points up at quarter time, kicking 9 goals to only 2 points in the first quarter. But we coasted a bit in the second half and ended up winning by 71 points. But another impressive game from the point of view of how many goals we scored. I think that's now, in these 5 wins that we've had, we've scored 18, 17, 14, 18 again last week, and then 21 this week. So that really is an impressive performance when it comes to how many goals we've scored in each of these 5 matches. So hats off to the Blues, and another impressive win. Unfortunately, a few injury worries that have come out of the game, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that shortly, I suppose.
Ibo has asked any update on our injury list. We'll get to that in a minute. I don't know if you guys are reading the comments, but I'm getting a bit of a history lesson here from Petra about nuclear bombs and all that. Interesting, but I can't put them up, Petra. So anyway.
Nuclear bombs? What is she telling us about nuclear bombs for?
Apparently they were detonated. Menzies allowed the British military to detonate 12
listen, I think that we don't need to go into that rubbish.
I don't know
We're here
anything
to talk
about
football.
it.
We're here to talk footy, everyone.
Yeah, I don't talk politics. So, all right. So the ladder.
Well, as I said, with that win by Collingwood over Port Adelaide, it really it basically cements their top spot on the ladder. I can't see them losing that from now on. Can you? They'd have to lose 3 matches and Port Adelaide win all of theirs basically between now and the end of the season. So I think you'll find Collingwood will finish on top. They're currently there on 64 points and a percentage of 136.5, which is the best in the competition at the moment. So they can do no wrong at the moment, Collingwood. Leading Port Adelaide, who are second now on 56 points and a percentage of 113.7. If they happen to lose another game and Brisbane win, it really is a poor percentage from that point of view, Port Adelaide, because they'll slip to third because Brisbane's got a healthy one of 130. They're 1 game behind Port Adelaide at the moment on 52 points. In fact, they'd probably be second now if it wasn't for that narrow loss to Melbourne last week. Anyway, it is the way it is. Brisbane are on 52. Melbourne, with that win today over Adelaide, pretty much cemented a top 4 position there on 48 points, a nice healthy percentage of 123.7. I think that's pretty much going to settle the top 4, Joe. Something dramatic would have to happen for that not to be the case, because even the sides on 40 there, which are the Western Bulldogs, St Kilda and GWS, their percentages are so far under Melbourne's that it's not just a 2-game deficit, it's almost really the same as a 3-game deficit. Yeah. So anyway, Western Bulldogs are 5th, St Kilda 6th and GWS 7th, all on 10 wins, all with percentages in the low 100s. Great to see GWS there in 7th. I think they've done a tremendous job under their coach, a first-time coach this year, of course, Adam Kingsley, to get into the 8. Now they've got to try and stay there. Geelong, with that loss to Brisbane, dropped down to 8th. They're on 38 points and a percentage of 121. And they're only in on percentage ahead of Carlton and Richmond. Yeah, Richmond's still got a percentage under 100, but we've got a pretty healthy percentage of 116.1. So we're still 5 percentage points under Geelong. So I think the percentage boosters have probably finished now with that game against West Coast. Yeah. We're up against Collingwood next week, and then I think we play St Kilda and then Melbourne and then Gold Coast up there on the Gold Coast, and then finish off with GWS. So I can't see any real percentage boosters in there, but you never know.
If we're good enough, Vince, we'll finish in the 8 if we're good enough.
If we're good enough, yeah. Well, it's probably in our hands. If we keep winning, I think we'll get in. Carlton on 38, Richmond on 38. Then, of course, 2 points shy of the 8 is Essendon on 36, and another percentage that's fairly poor, under 100. Then you got the Sydney Swans on 34. I think they've still got a heartbeat, especially with their percentage at 111.8. And, geez, I can't see Adelaide now, after having lost today, 32, and Gold Coast on 32. I can't see them making the 8. You know, they've probably still got a mathematical chance, but, geez, everything would have to go right for them. They'd have to probably win every one of their last 5 matches. So Adelaide on 32 and Gold Coast on 32, both having lost today. And then, of course, Fremantle on 28. They lost as well. They're gone. Hawthorn's on 20. They're gone. And North Melbourne and West Coast have been gone for a fair while. So... really, the interest in the ladder is up to around the Sydney Swans, I think, up to 12th position. And then below that, I think it's pretty much done.
I still think Adelaide and Gold Coast, I mean, I don't know their fixtures. So
they're a game and a half out plus percentage. So,
yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anyway,
they've lost 10 games already, each of them. To have lost 10 games already and still have 5 games to go, I can't see them making it, but anyway.
Anyway, so Vince,
Yes.
At this point in time, we would like to introduce our special commentator, I guess. He's the one and only 1979 utility, even though he played forward and back, Mr. Peter Brown. How are you, Pete, tonight?
Good evening, Joe. Good evening, Vince. And good evening to our viewers.
G'day, Brownie. Just come up a little bit forward if you can, mate.
Sorry?
Just come up forward a little bit more towards the screen a little bit more for us.
That's all right.
We want to see you. We want to see your beautiful. We want to see your beautiful face.
Yeah. Well, now that I've come back from a stint,
I was just going to say, welcome back.
Last week, being managed.
I said that you were being managed. You know, at your age, mate. We got the finals are coming up. We've got to keep you in cotton wool.
I believe you're interstate. You're interstate, Brownie. Where were you?
I was on the Sunshine Coast, actually. I was up there for a conference.
Oh, one of those conferences. Okay.
Explain the tan then, mate. Explain the tan.
No, the conference was a work do. We incorporated our board meeting as well as a conference up there. So
that's great. There must be a tax deduction coming along somewhere.
Legitimately, absolutely, legitimately.
I'm only kidding.
And there's absolutely no alcohol involved, was there, Peter?
No, there was no socialising, no entertainment, and
nothing.
Definitely no sun and surf.
I cannot think of anything that springs to mind that would even suggest that.
Now, before we go on, someone has said here, I don't know where it is, that they've heard that Jack Silvani could be out for up to 8 weeks. So I haven't heard anything. I was just going to say we'll talk about our injuries when we talk about the game against Collingwood. So let's just go through the game first.
Can I just say something about that? That is skullduggery, nothing but speculation, because he hasn't even had a proper scan. Neither has Sam Walsh. They don't know the full extent of the damage to any of those players that got injured yesterday. So anyone who's now saying, 8 weeks or 6 weeks or season done, they're being mischievous. Nothing short of mischievous.
And guys, we've just had a note from Il Duce, the boss. Hey guys, another week, another win. Now bring on those frauds this Friday.
If there's anything Rocco looks forward to, there's nothing he looks forward to more than a clash with the old enemy at Collingwood. That's for sure.
Yeah,
it's going to be a good game.
As Rocco would say, those rotten scumbags at bloody Victoria Park.
Anyway, but as there's no point speculating on any of the injuries because, as Vince says, I don't think any of them have seen a doctor. I don't think any of them have had a scan. So, we'll just leave it at that. Hey, guys, let's look at some of the statistics out of yesterday's game, and then we will get Peter to talk about it.
Yep.
So the first one is the disposals. Vince, I'll let you read through these. You love the disposals.
Yes, well, isn't it interesting, hey? You can be so dominant in a game and yet technically be, behind in some of these categories. I mean, overall disposals, it was pretty even, but the Eagles were actually ahead of us, and so both in kicks and handballs. And I think that's probably more indicative of how dominant they were in the second half. I actually thought they outplayed us in the second half of the game. And we completely outplayed them in the first half. Yeah, of course. I realise that. But they caught up, basically, when it comes to all these categories because of the fact that they had so much more of the ball in the second half. We had a lot more inside 50s. I think we used the ball better there, 64-43. And we had a lot more scoring opportunities as a result. Contested possessions, we definitely beat them at the contest. They beat us on the outside with the uncontested possessions. Turnovers, well, again, they had less than we did. So we turned the ball over a lot yesterday, even though we were dominant. We still turned it over a heck of a lot. Next.
Yeah.
The hit-outs, pretty even. Clearances, that's where we dominated, as I said, especially in the centre clearances and stoppage clearances. We smashed them, absolutely smashed them around the ground at stoppages, both ball ups and and throw-ins.
Yeah.
What else did we go with there, Joe, when it comes to
we got marks.
Next? Marks, here we go. So marks, the Eagles actually outmarked us. Probably a lot more uncontested marks than anything else because we smashed them with contested marks, and Charlie Curnow was one of the main reasons for that. Marks inside 50, 13 to 10. Intercepts, they had a lot more intercept marks, interestingly. So, the ball was coming down to our forward 50 a lot, but they were intercepting it a lot. But we were also marking it on quite a few occasions as well. And I think that really tells the story. Tackles, we tackled a lot more than they did, which was a good sign. I think, so, considering we had a fair bit of the ball, to get 62 tackles to 44 was a very good sign for us. Tackles inside 50 were pretty even. We had a lot more players going for a bit of a bounce yesterday. 11 to 5, and then 1%ers were pretty even. So they're the main areas I think that the game were determined by. What do you think, Brownie? What would you make of all of that?
It probably confirmed my opinion and thought on the game. I actually agree with your comment earlier on when you said that we dominated for the first quarter and a half of the game, and then from that point onwards, even though Charlie had a day out, if you took his contribution out of the game and then actually analysed what the score was and then where our possessions were, etc., I actually thought that we were exposed on a couple of occasions, and as a result of that, I think West Coast actually fought back really well. And credit to them. They
didn't drop their bundle, did they? They could have easily dropped their bundle at halftime, 82 points down, but they actually fought back quite well.
Absolutely, and the interesting thing is that some of our exposures, we're not going to get away with that crap this week coming. You will get punished for some of our indiscretions. I'll put it down in that term. I just thought that some of our work, particularly through the midfield, dropped off quite dramatically, and they actually started to dominate the centre corridor there at one stage. And whilst they weren't getting full benefit from their work, I just thought that Carlton players were exposed. Absolutely.
Peter, you just mentioned that our centre clearances sort of dropped off. Do you think that all happened when Walsh got injured?
It certainly was. It certainly was I call it the impact area of the business, because Walsh was obviously in very, very good form in the first quarter, and he was the catalyst of most of our forward thrusts there, and his clearance work was exceptional. Even though Hewitt held his own, I think that Walsh is the importance in the centre area. I wasn't particularly happy with some of our back play, particularly when West Coast was moving forward. Early in the game, our backs didn't have a lot to do, and a lot of our forward thrusts were coming off halfback and not getting back to the last line of defence. And when it did get back to the last line of defence, I thought our backs looked a little bit exposed on occasions. Even though Wiedering might have bloody well put in a reasonably serviceable game, I wouldn't say it was outstanding. And I just thought we'd lost a little bit of leadership back there when the thing got to the last line of defence. So I was a bit concerned about that exposure, particularly. I'll call it a quarter and a half of football and 2.5 quarters of treading water.
Yeah, and people are saying, we've got no interchange, and Cripps and Chera was out. I guess it was time for the people like Hewitt, Dow, to really sort of stand up and show what they're made of. Newman, I think in the last couple of weeks, Wiedering has improved since you've given him a roast, Pete. I think he's starting to be.
Well, Wiedering has lifted his game, and his disposal is a lot more efficient than what it was, when he was playing poorly. And let's not sugarcoat it; he was playing poorly. He was supposed to
He's
be
really
the
stood
leader
up.
back there, and he wasn't the leader. And they were exposed. And look, interestingly enough, guys, it's really interesting, isn't it? You can get a bit carried away with statistics. And you're saying that we've had 5 games over 50 points as wins. Only one of those sides was above us on the ladder. The rest of them were mediocre sides of which we've come up against. So you come away from a game against West Coast, and interestingly enough, people are now starting to suggest that the West Coast games, the competition now is lopsided because of sides like Carlton and possibly some of the other sides that are below the 8 or below 8 on the ladder of getting the second crack at West Coast and being able to take advantage of that. But today, for example, now the North Melbourne St Kilda game, that could have gone either way. And if anyone takes any of those sides like North Melbourne or Hawthorn, or if you want to put in Sydney and Gold Coast and these ones, at any given day in any given situation, those sides can expose sides above them. These sides have got absolutely nothing to lose for the next 5 or 3 or 4 or 5 games or whatever is left in the season. We're in no means in safe territory here. We still have to win and still have to continue to win to actually have any presence inside the 8 going into the final series. Interestingly,
that's what Petrus said that after the Essendon game. We need to win 3 of our last 5. So, look, as I said to Vince, if the team is good enough, they'll do it. Look, I'm sure Cripps and Chera will be back this week. So
I think both Cripps and Chera were managed. I'll use that word. Let's not muck around here. At the end of the day, they were rested. Now, is that a slap in the face to West Coast? Yeah, maybe. Did they want to risk the possibility of injury or something like that? And look, quite frankly, what happens in games like against sides like West Coast, players, knowing full well that they've got Collingwood coming up the week after, they might go at a contest at, say, 85%. And we all know that if you don't go at any contest at 100%, you end up getting hurt. That could have had a catastrophic effect on what's going on. The other thing I'd like to shine light on, guys, is the fact that, it's interesting. 6 weeks ago, we were sitting in this forum and we were bagging the shit out of the bloody, out of the coaching staff and also the administrative staff and things like that. Well, surprise, surprise. Now we've had 5 wins on the trot and everything's all gone to ground. But I'm here to tell you that if they don't make some changes in the off season, we're going to be in the same position as we were this year, which is underperforming for the abilities which have in the side. So, you've got to be mindful of this so that we can actually move forward with the side rather than, be comfortable with getting the win. So let's not get too carried away with this. We haven't proven anything yet. All we've done is we've strung a few bloody wins together. And as a result of that, everyone can, howl me down if they like and stuff like that. But the reality is that you can come back to earth with a pretty big thud very quickly.
That's right. Peter,
that's true. I was just going to say what I think. I take your points, Brownie, and I wholeheartedly agree. Although I've got to say that winning 5 games in a row must give this side a much-needed boost in confidence. Well, what's happened to Joe?
Oh, I know, he's disappeared.
He's gone. Anyway, mate, looks like it's your show and mine. Anyway, I'm sure he'll be back in a minute. I was just going to say, look, I think what they need at the moment is, if anything, is confidence. And these games that they've strung together has injected that sort of confidence into them. And nice to have you back, Joe.
Sorry, there's a big thunderstorm, and my modem just cut out for a sec. I went to check it, and then it came back on. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Yeah.
You're saying, Brownie?
Okay. What I was going to suggest to your comments and to your point, Vince, I'm still not convinced that our small forwards nor our midfielders are still capable of kicking goals when someone like Curnow, and make no mistake, next week Curno's not going to have the latitude that he had this week. He's going to come under scrutiny. He's going to be he's going to take a very, very good player to bloody well keep him quiet, and that will be either Moore or Murphy or one of the guys.
I think you'll find the two number 30s will be up against each other this coming Friday night.
Possibly.
Yeah, could be a great clash if it happens. It'll be something to behold, if you ask me. It'll be a fantastic opportunity for both players to show each other who's boss.
Well, I've got a long memory, and if I recall earlier in the season when we played Collingwood, we didn't do ourselves any favours by making the number 30 from the black and white side bloody well, just about best on ground, because we couldn't.
We kept kicking it to him.
We didn't lower our eyes going into the forward line. And
admittedly, though, that was in the middle of that really bad stretch of losses that we were having. I think it started with Brisbane.
Adelaide.
I think it was Adelaide. Yeah, I guess you want to go back that far. We had the West Coast win in the middle of that. But I guess what I'm saying is in that stretch, that's when we played Collingwood. And I think you'll find that this time around we'll go in with a lot more confidence. Admittedly, probably with a few more injuries. But I still think that we're better equipped this time around to deal with them than we were last time.
Look, let's be fair income here. Collingwood's back line is probably one of the most efficient in the competition. Okay.
Yep.
They've been able to keep sides to a losing score. And I know that's stating the obvious, but the reality is that in tight situations and in crunch time, if you were to actually match up all of our forward line players now compared with the Collingwood back line, we're slightly exposed here now. And as a result of that, our small forwards, and I'm talking about guys like Motlop now, who's obviously running into some sort of form. I can't see Martin coming back into the side. I'm not sure about what happened with him. Obviously,
late withdrawal.
The week prior, he had a bandage on his calf muscle. I think I made
it was his calf again.
Yeah,
he's got a chronic calf injury. It just will not go away. It's a matter of managing it.
Yeah. Call it manage, call it whatever you like. At the end of the day, if it was a racehorse, you'd put it down. Purely and simply because it keeps on breaking down. You couldn't have it. You couldn't have it on the bloody track. So
look. There's no question we're going up against the best team in the competition at this point in time. They've proven it time and time again. They've just proven it again last night when they beat Port Adelaide. So it is the ultimate test for our group. But at least we're going in with some confidence that we've won the last 5. We've sung the song after the game after the last 5 and probably built a little bit of self-belief in that team. And I think going into that game on the back of 5 wins is a lot better than what we went into the last game against Collingwood on the back of probably 5 losses out of 6.
Yeah.
That's the only point. That's the only point I'm making, Brownie. I'm not saying we'll play any better or the result will be any better than last time. Maybe it'll be even worse. But at least we're going into the game with some confidence and some belief. And we've been, I think, implementing whatever game plan Michael Voss wants us to go with. I think we've actually done a far better job at implementing that plan over the last 5 weeks than what we did beforehand.
I think some of our decision processes still need to be looked at, and I think some of our decision making is poor on occasions. You highlighted the fact that in the second half of this week's game that you suggested that we were poor at hitting targets again.
Yes.
Is that because we're lazy? Is it because we were did they put the pool cue away in the rack? And
probably a bit of both.
And that type of thing. Well, you can't afford to do that against sides that are the leaders in the competition.
No doubt.
There is one thing that I probably will make comment on, and that is that now Collingwood would be there, doing some homework rather than going into the game laughing and giggling like they might have been after the first loss earlier in the year. We'll go in with a little bit of respect, which is a nice thing to have, particularly in a clash against Collingwood. So
no doubt.
I suspect that will be an important thing that Voss could hang his hat on, is the fact that now we are starting to demand some respect from the competition, even though, again, I say that we're, at the back end of the season, and the test is going to be the next 5 weeks or the next 4 weeks. So, and we'll find out whether we're going to be good enough or not. But at least from our point of view, we're now starting to demand some respect.
Yeah,
Peter,
sure.
Can we just talk about a few of the players that have played for us in the last 5 weeks? And I just want you to give a summation. Brody Kemp. What do you think of him?
I would keep in the side. I think he's got some toughness about him. He's worth persevering with.
He seems to get better and better each week, doesn't he?
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's more his decision processes rather than just all out. And he's not trying to take the big mark all the time. There are times where he's come through and spoiled and stuff like that. So he's now starting to turn into and understand what is required as a backman.
Okay. Mitch McGovern.
Yeah, I've got a big question mark still on him. Some of his disposal this week was horrible. Some of it was okay, but some of it was still pretty ordinary. There was the odd occasion that he came in and actually showed that he's got some form in terms of intercept. Still big question mark over him for mine. And I said when we did the review on the list that I would either get rid of him or trade him, and I still hold that opinion.
Okay. Cunningham.
Cunningham is worth keeping in the side. He's,
So you give him a new contract?
Sorry?
So you give him a new contract because he comes out of contract at the end of this year.
Absolutely, I would.
Okay.
I think he's a fairly smart footballer. Right? He actually thinks about what he's doing, and he's as far as I'm concerned, I think he does actually bring something to the side.
Yep.
Hello.
Yep. Yes, we can hear you, Joe.
Yeah.
I didn't hear Peter.
Oh,
he was talking. It's all right.
So sorry. Did you get my comments on that?
No.
Oh, I said that I would actually keep Cunningham in the side. I would offer him a new contract. It wouldn't be a long-term one, but I'd offer him another contract. He's got to prove more yet, but under a decent pre-season under his belt, I would suspect that he would come back better. And I just like the way he thinks and his decision process. So yeah, I would keep him.
Before you go, can I just interrupt for a moment, Joe? I hope you don't mind. But before we go on to the next player that you want Peter to comment on, I've just noticed in this little period that we've had some wins, Peter. This last 4 or 5 weeks, that all of a sudden there's announcement after announcement during the week by the club about players that they've re-signed. It's amazing how they do that on the back of a couple of wins. And as you said, 4 out of those 5 wins were against bottom 6 sides. So, the one big win was over Port Adelaide, but nevertheless, it hasn't stopped the club from re-signing players one after the other.
Let's put Port Adelaide's win in perspective here. They had 7 players out on that game.
Yes, they did.
And one of their most important players, in my mind, is Charlie Dixon. He is a massive loss in their forward line. So let's not get too carried away there, right? It was a win. I'll take the win. But I certainly, if they were at full strength and we beat them by 50 points, I'd have a different different opinion and view on that. So, let's not get carried away with that.
Okay.
So I mentioned, who did I say? Lachlan Fogarty.
Sorry?
Fogarty.
Fogarty. When Fogarty first came back into the side, I was fairly happy with some of his work. I think he dropped away yesterday, to be honest with you. I don't think that he was as effective as what he was earlier on. Again, I would say that probably another decent pre-season underneath him. I would still keep him, but a decent pre-season.
And the big one that everyone's asking, Tom De Koning, what do you think of his game yesterday, and what do you think they should be offering him?
Well, we've got to make some room in the salary cap, I think, to be honest with you. So I'd start to consider where we're going with some of the players. People like Ed Curnow and these guys will move on, and I would keep De Koning. I would seriously keep De Koning. And I really think after yesterday's performance, I think De Koning wants to stay. I really do.
Let's hope so, because he's a real talent, isn't he?
Well,
he's good.
He's a raw. Just at present, he's a raw young ruckman, right? And he's already starting to learn his craft. He's already starting to get the understanding of what is required as a ruckman and as an attacking ruckman, not a defensive ruckman, but attacking ruckman. And I think that he's well worth considering putting them. And to be honest with you, I would even consider making some changes even in some of the higher personnel. Now, whether that be get rid of Martin or someone like that, and actually sign De Koning, I would do that.
Well, they'll lose Mitch McGovern, who's on top dollar, so that's okay.
I've got a feeling that they'll do a deal with Mitch McGovern at dramatically less money. But I've got a feeling that he'll want to stay. I think he'll want to stay, and he'll probably be happy to take significantly less money in order to get a 2 or 3 year deal. The question is whether we want him and whether we think he's part of the future or not. Or whether we let him go. But I think he'll want to stay, even if it's on reduced money, because I don't think he'll have too many other suitors outside of Carlton. But you never know until you put them on the trade table. Big blokes are not easy to find. Good ones. What's that?
He might go join his brother in at West Coast, but you never know.
Who knows?
Sorry, and the last one, Jack Silvani, who unfortunately got injured yesterday, but was the last few weeks. He's really, really, really showed. He's stepped up a bit.
Well, weeks ago I said, Joe, that I would keep Jack and use him as an impact player, and I'm still of that opinion. I still have a big question mark over a comment that Vince made earlier in the year about possibly trying him down back and as a defender rather than a small forward or a medium forward. Jack has. Well, in some respects, shown a little bit of form of recent times. So I would definitely keep him and use him as an impact.
It's just really up to him what they offer him and whether he wants to stay, I guess. I suppose that's all the players that are coming out of contract. They'll probably lose 1 or 2, but anyway. Well, any other thoughts on yesterday's game, Vince, Peter? Do you want to make any comments about like game plans or?
Well, I thought it was a scintillating first half by Carlton. I mean, you can't criticise 15 goals in a half, nearly 100 points by half time, and keeping the opposition to 2 goals for. I think we need to start giving them some credit where credit's due. Now, I guess the debate here is whether they played to a standard that is acceptable or unacceptable in the second half. We definitely got outplayed and we definitely got outscored. You can't question that because the scoreboard shows that. But I think the game was done by that stage, and I think maybe there was a little bit of that putting the cue in the rack in the psyche of the players. Whether Michael Voss was thinking along those lines, I don't know. But obviously they had a bit to manage on the bench because they had a lot of injured players that they couldn't put back on the ground. So that's not the easiest situation to manage either.
I think they became too Charlie conscious, particularly in that third quarter. And I don't think they were doing the things that were, giving them the dominance that they were doing in the first quarter and a half of the game, particularly in the third quarter. And bear in mind also that West Coast made a run at us, and I'll call it a mini run, with Oscar Allen in the back line.
That's
wasn't
true.
in the forward line. I mean, their key positional forward, which was Oscar Allen, was sitting on Charlie. Now,
well, he was sacrificed. I think he was sacrificed purely to have someone with a bit of height to go up against Charlie, even if he's not a natural defender.
Yeah, but then does that put a big question mark over the top of our back line then, if that's the case, and our midfield, if we've allowed them to virtually outscore us in the second half of the game, that must put a question mark over our work ethic. I
think their midfielders worked a lot harder than ours in the second half.
Absolutely,
it's not like they had tall timber down forward line kicking all the goals. I mean, Darling got 2 goals for the game, but you saw guys like Petrocelli and Gaff and Sheed and Petrescu-Seaton. They all kicked goals.
Absolutely.
So they worked hard for their goals, but nevertheless they were certainly prepared to put their head down and bum up and compete with us and match it with us in the second half. That's for sure.
Two of their elder statesmen, Shuey and Hearn, you can say that they're virtually both at the end of their careers, but
absolutely.
They're the ones that keep them pretty stable in their side, but both of them didn't have an influence on the game. In fact, Shuey actually went off with a
Shuey got injured. Shuey got injured and had to be subbed off. And Hearn, well, he tried hard. He got 24 possessions, but 21 kicks for the game. But the poor bloke's about 38 years of age or something, and still trying to keep the back line intact. But
To be perfectly honest with you guys, if I was Simpson, I'd be bringing all those kids in after that game and actually congratulating them on the fact that they actually fought back. And if you want you take Charlie's 10 out of the game, right, 10-3 or whatever it was that he scored, take him out of it. Yeah. Carlton won the game by 8 points.
Yep.
Right? So, Pete, yes, Joe.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Someone's said something, and I want to ask you this.
Put up the comment, Joe.
I'm trying to find it because it was a while ago and you guys kept talking. Andy Hill, Voss would never tell the boys to relax, and someone else says, do you really think Voss would tell them to relax? Now, Peter, you've actually played in a successful team that was pretty dominant, right? Now, do you think, when you played, do you think some of the guys just relaxed because they were so far in front, even though the coach doesn't tell them? Do you think that's a natural reaction?
Absolutely not. When I was playing, it was a different mindset. I mean, I've said this before. If you saw one of your fellow players, buddy, was slackening off or not going at a contest hard enough or something like that, it didn't take the coaching staff to give him a kick in the arse. It was bloody well coming from their fellow players. And you knew you were only as good as your last game. So that's all you ever got. And you had to perform week in, week out to hold your position. So there was no passengers. And, while someone does make the comment about the fact that Voss wouldn't have told him to relax, no, maybe he didn't. But what he should have told him was to reset. And, the scoreboard is 0-0-0 again, and we have to go back out there and actually perform again. I know there's a lot of touchy-feely stuff in the competition nowadays, but realistically, if we were at 15 goals at half time, we should have been 30 goals at the end of the game, and not where we were. And look, I'm not taking anything away from West Coast in the way that they actually fought back. I congratulate them on that. However, I just don't think that was. I think it was an opportunity lost from Carlton's point of view to actually get some real good percentage. And as I said before, I think they exposed us and badly sometimes in areas of our game that we have to improve to actually match it against sides like Collingwood and Melbourne, if you want to call it, and I'll throw Port Adelaide back in there at full strength.
I guess it's better to be exposed when you're 80 points up when you're 60 points down or something, isn't it?
Oh, look, I mean, obviously, it's nice having that buffer. However, even back in the 70s when we were playing in early 80s, if we were that far in front, what we would do is go out and think that no, it's an even playing field again, and we have to earn it again. So you'd be going as hard, if not harder. And me being one of the quiet ones around the club as a young bloke, I made sure that when the side ran out after half time, that they still had a game of football to bloody well win. So some of my colourful expressions probably was a part of the fact that they had to put their mind back on the job.
So look, I think we've spoken enough about the game. There's not really a lot. Why don't we go through the votes, brownie points, and then let's talk about next week's game and where we think some players will do. So I will put up the votes. Not too hard to see who got 3 votes. Peter?
Yeah, no, foregone conclusion. Deserved them. 10 goals in any competition is a really good effort, even though it was up against West Coast. But good on Charlie. That'll give him a world of confidence going in against the Carlton Collingwood game. Obviously, Doherty, who I thought for 4 quarters across the game, I thought he performed very well. And Doherty is the one player that I said earlier in the year that you could probably offer him up as trade bait. I still have a question mark over him. I'll reserve my judgment and see how he pulls up at the end of the season. He's done a lot of hard work through the season, so his body might have got smashed around a bit. And it was a welcome return to Hewitt, who I gave 1 vote to, that actually started to rack up some possessions. He's now going to have to take a next step against Collingwood in this coming week. So Curnow 3, 2 to Doherty, and 1 to Hewitt.
And Vince, you must have been looking over your shoulder because you've copied Brownie exactly the same, have you?
I've copied Brownie's homework.
Well, the teacher wants to see you after class.
No, I came up with my votes separate to Brownie, and I noticed on the Sunday Footy Show this morning. I'm trying to think who gave the votes, but whoever it was gave the votes exactly the same thing. In fact, the player that I'm going to mention who was a bit stiff to miss out on a vote, they put him in for the 4th. So Charlie Curnow, Doherty, Hewitt, and De Koning was the 4th one. I thought De Koning was I tossed up between him and Hewitt, but in the end I went for Hewitt. I thought it was a welcome return to form for him. Hopefully that keeps up for the rest of the season and into the finals if we make them. But, yeah, for all the same reasons that Brownie said about Curnow and Doherty. Look, Brownie, I hear what you say about Doherty, but I'd venture to say there are some players in every club that are what you would call heart and soul players, players that have maybe even been through some adversity. They are dyed-in-the-wool Carlton people, and Sam Doherty's one of those. He's been a Carlton boy ever since he was a kid. And after all that he's been through with both knee reconstructions and testicular cancer and all those things that he's been through, I would find it staggering if Carlton put him on the trade table. And after yet another terrific year where he's shown some welcome leadership around the place, I'd be staggered if he went anywhere. And I would expect the club to probably offer him another couple of year contract, to be honest. He's only just about to turn 30 in October. So I reckon they'll give him another 2 years at least.
He might be a future coach of the club.
That's my prediction anyway. Take it or leave it. That's my prediction. I think they'll give him another 2 year extension. Anyway, great to see Doherty in form. And Charlie, well, what can you say? 10 goals. You tip your hat off to him, don't you? It's a fantastic effort by King Charles. And they're my votes, Joe.
Yeah. And I had the same guys, but I had them in a different order. I had Charlie Curnow, obviously 3 votes, 10 goals. He'll probably get 3 Brownlow votes. I thought Hewitt is coming back to some of the form that he showed when he first got to the club, and we need him in that form. And I was tossing up between Doherty and Tom De Koning, but I gave it to to Doherty. Sorry. I'd like to also give a big mention to Ollie Hollins. I thought his first game back, that boy's got some skill. When he builds up, he's going to be a champion, I think. So, well done. Yeah. Let's have a look at our leaderboard. Adam Chera didn't play, is still holding on to top position with 58 votes. Sam Walsh was threatening yesterday, but
went off injured.
When he went off, he went off, so he didn't get any. Charlie, the big mover, up to 44. Then we've got Doherty on 40. Nick Newman, 19. McKay, 16. Cripps, 15. Akers, 13. Hewitt, 12. And Silvani, 10. Mine, Il Duce has just given us a comment. The last time we had a player kick 10 goals, we won the Premiership. There you go.
That's cool. And his name was? Who's the last Carlton player to kick 10 goals?
Is it Peter Bazzasto?
No. We won a Premiership. Stephen Kernahan kicked 10 goals against Footscray at the time, now the Western Bulldogs, 1995, and we went on to win the Premiership that year. There you go, Brian. Man, good on you, Brian. He knows his Carlton history.
Yeah, good leader.
It might have been the last, but Peter Bazzasto also kicked 10 in a year that we won a Premiership against the
Peter
Swans
Bazzasto?
at Princes Park. Yeah, Princes Park.
Are you sure about that?
100%. I was there on the press box.
10 goals, you sure? I don't recall that, but anyway, I'll take your word for it. I remember Ross Ditchburn kicked 12 goals against St Kilda in 1982.
That was a good one.
But not Peter Bazzasto. That's news to me. I reckon that's not quite right, Joe. Because if that was the case, of all the times I've seen Peter Bazzasto, he would have been reminding me of that time and time and time and time again. Right, Brownie?
Sorry, I've been corrected. He kicked 8 goals.
That's more like it. I bet you it was against the Sydney Swans.
Yeah, I said that since. Well, yeah, Sydney Swans at Princes Park.
Yeah, I was there that day.
I was only 2 goals out.
He took some speckies, that's for sure.
He did. Do you know what time it is now?
Time for...
Beautiful kick from Brown. That's a magnificent kick. Look at that. He was inside the centre square when he kicked that for a goal.
I just noticed that was the old style jumper too, by the way. That's the old woolen jumper, that one. That's the one.
How many times do players get their fingernails caught in those woolen jumpers with the little cords in the middle? You know,
I know when it was wet, they used to get pretty heavy when you were running around with them all the time. That's for sure.
Really?
A few players that do some finger injuries with those things. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So, the big drum roll. I must get downloaded drum roll. The brownie points this week goes to.
Yes, I have been a massive critic of this man most of the year because of his disposal. And I gave it to Adam Sard this week. I thought his disposal was a lot more effective, and I thought that he provided, particularly more so in the first quarter and a half of the game. I thought that his work coming on off half back was exceptional. not so much in the third quarter when things tightened up a bit, but more so in that first half. So, and then he had a few more in the last. So I did give my brownie points to Adam Sard. And as I said, I've been a massive critic of him during the year. And now he's hopefully this will be the springboard for some better disposal, more efficient disposal, and it's going to be important against Collingwood.
Okay. So that brings us to next week, boys. Hang on. Oh, no. First of all, here's the tipping ladder. Everyone got it right. Me and Peter are still up in front on 10, and Vince is on 8. Next week, Carlton, it's a Collingwood home game. It's on Friday night.
Oh, Joe, you've done it again.
What? I put the wrong date. 20.
You've got the wrong date. Oh, goodness me. Friday the 28th of July.
That's okay. No, it was on Friday. Didn't you go? Did you miss it?
Did you miss it?
You missed it. We won.
Well, for starters, the 22nd was yesterday, which was a Saturday.
You missed it. You missed it, Vince. We beat the top team.
What are we going to do with you, Joe? You keep making blue after blue, week after week. I don't know.
It's a long way to
something
Bangkok.
about this, Brownie.
It's a long way to Bangkok.
I can't believe you missed it. Anyway, next Friday.
We'll have to serve him with a warning notice, I think, Brownie.
Yes. Yes.
Here's the excuse.
Contract negotiations are off the table until the end of the season.
Blame the rain. Lana, I'm on fire. So the rain will get me out. Okay, so
next Friday, the 28th at the MCG.
Let's go through our team.
7:50.
Do we think Chera and Cripps and Martin are all going to be fit? Do we think that? Yes or no?
Martin won't be. I don't think
so.
He'll come up. I think Chera will play. I think Cripps will play. I've got a question mark over Walsh, actually, to be honest with you.
I was going to get to that. Walsh, Silvani. Who else got injured on the weekend?
I think will struggle. Depending on how bad the knee injury is. And if it is a jar, he might get away with it. Just depends on what sort of damage has been caused with the jar. Walsh is a little bit more concerning. And out of the two of the players, Silvani and Walsh is the one that I'm more concerned about losing going into the game. I am Silvani, even though Silvani does give us that option of the second ruckman. How far is Pitnet off? Is he going to actually?
He played in the VFL yesterday in a winning side against Port Melbourne at Icon Park, but
do we need?
Yeah, that's his first. That's his first game back for a fair while.
The reason is that through my mind, I've got no one to match up on Cox for Collingwood. So we definitely need someone like a Pitnet in that side to actually be able to, even if it's just to nullify it more than anything else. But if this is something that we're going to have to be pretty careful of. And Collingwood are going to use Cox in a height advantage situation, and this is going to be really important for our interceptors to come across and be a part of the contest. The other interesting thing is that our backs are going to really have to knuckle down this week. I would have loved to have had Boyd in the side because Boyd probably would have been able to run with maybe.
But he is a bit of a loss, isn't he? He would have been able to run with Dacos, I reckon.
Well, Dacos or Bobby Hill, one of those.
Or Bobby Hill, yeah.
But now that he's not in the side, I'd say Hewitt will get maybe Dacos, I'd say.
Interesting. What about Ed Curnow? The two number 35s against each other. I mean, if there's any role at all for Ed Curnow in the side, it's surely as a tagger.
Oh, look, absolutely no doubt that he could probably do it. But has he got the engine to run with Dacos?
I reckon it's almost like this is your last hurrah, Ed. I mean, this is the one role that you're good at, and this will show us whether you're done or whether you're not done. Because if you can't do this role against Collingwood, against one of their gun midfielders, well then, really, what's the point of keeping you in the team at all for the rest of the year, let alone next year?
Well, who do you think would probably take Myercheck? Is it going to be Wiedering or is it going to be Boyd?
Boyd's out for 3 weeks.
Oh, sorry, not Boyd. Sorry, Kemp. Sorry.
I think it's Kemp.
No, I'd look.
I'd say Kemp.
I think it depends on whether they play Johnson or not. Because if they bring Johnson in, I'd be playing Kemp on Johnson. Johnson's a more of a leaper, and I think that's what Kemp's strength is in his leap and his intercept mark. Yep. I'd be almost inclined to play McGovern on Myercheck.
Ooh.
And put Wiedering on Cox, because I think you're right. I think McRae might decide to load up on his forward line and expose our lack of height. And that's where maybe Wiedering needs to play on Cox and maybe McGovern on Myercheck, or the other way around. Maybe Wiedering on Myercheck and McGovern on Cox.
Sorry to interrupt. You've left out the most important person who played for them on the weekend, Daniel McStay. Who's going to take him?
Well, there's another one. Maybe you need to get someone like the Conning playing on him. If what's his name, Pitnet comes in as the number one ruckman.
I would actually put De Conning behind the ball and put him on Cox, actually, and then I would put Wiedering on McStay, and I'd give Kemp the job on Myercheck. That's the way that I would line up, and then I'd put Newman onto Dacos.
Dacos or on Billy Elliott? Because I reckon Elliott is one of those forwards, a bit like Toby Green from GWS, that Newman probably will need to play on.
I reckon McGovern might get Elliott.
Really?
But Jamie Elliott always kills us.
Surely Elliott's too mobile and too nimble for McGovern, surely.
I think Saad might take him.
Who, Elliott? No.
Yeah.
No, he's not good enough.
Why not?
Saad wouldn't be good enough for Elliott.
Not defensively good enough.
No, not defensively.
Nor can he go with him in the air. That's why I think Newman
neither will McGovern.
is a better.
McGovern will get killed by Elliott.
Show me one of our defenders that's better and more successful in the past at stopping dangerous forwards than Nick Newman.
And don't forget, then you've got the rotations through the Collingwood forward line, and one of them is Jack Cripps. He actually rotates through there as well. And then on top of that, you've got.
Let's be honest, it's a one headache after another, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I think Michael Voss will be losing.
Well, that's why they're on top of the ladder, Vince. That's why they're on top of the ladder. 2 games clear.
Right. Well, they've got that many options and that many top players that you've got to try and keep quiet. That's why they're all going to be up against it this week.
Did any of you guys see the footy show today? And there was a highlight there about Pendlebury. Did you see that?
Yeah.
You did?
What did he do?
In the last, probably, help me here, Vince, was it the last minute of the game or the last 3 minutes of the game? He was actually the captain on the side.
Absolutely.
He was he was calling all the shots. He was making sure that everyone was in their positions. He was actually calling.
He was the general.
Plays.
He was the general.
He was a general. He was absolutely general. Now, this is going to be really important for us on Friday night. We actually, if Cripps is in the side, he has to step up to the plate, because not only is he going to have to captain against Moore, but he's going to have to captain against Pendlebury as well. And this is where someone like, say, a Doherty may have to step up as well and take some leadership back there, because if not, we're going to find ourselves in all sorts. So the reason why I was highlighting the Collingwood forward line is that even their back line, they're a complete side just at present. And one of the things that probably is interesting is that the ins for Collingwood, or their second stringers, I'll call them, they come in and they play a role for them. They're never going to be world beaters, but they're the ones that actually do the solid stuff that actually allows the other players to be dominant in their side. So from Carlton's perspective, and I've been banging on about this for the last bloody 3 or 4 weeks, it's not your stars that are going to win the game for you. It's going to be the players from number 10 to 25 are the ones that are going to be the workhorses here.
Well, yeah, like Chincotta, he seems to be okay. He's fitting in okay in the back line. He's doing his job.
Yeah, Cottrell's going to have to step up this week. Akers, I thought, was quiet this week, and he has to step up. Hollands could be an interesting player.
Winger.
In against this, and he could actually be able to provide some. The exposure for me is the mid to small forwards. That's our exposure, and they're the ones that are going to be really important in the game. You've got Jack Silvani was playing, say, like a mid tall back there. He's not exceptionally tall, but he's a mid tall. So they threw Young back there this week. It may happen that Young will have to probably assume either a forward role or a back role, I would say. And I'd say more than likely.
I have a feeling that Young might be sacrificed if Pitnet comes into the side, because you can't play Pitnet and De Koning and Young, especially if the only real role they've got for Young is as a ruckman or backup ruckman. He's either got to play in defence, in a defensive role, or he's out of the side, I think you'll find.
Well, in that case, then, I'd throw a challenge to him and throw him on the Cox.
Well, it'd be a big challenge because I think he played on him last time and I think he lowered his colours. So, whether they throw him the challenge again and say, well, see how you go a second time. But I remember in that first game, quite a number of occasions he was just, almost slouched over his own shoulders, basically feeling hopeless that he couldn't stop Cox marking the ball.
One of the things that I want to knock out of Newman's game is the way that he actually drops his shoulders. Have you noticed that on a couple of occasions when he gets beaten to the ball or something?
Sometimes,
like that? He does drop his shoulders.
Or he starts looking at his teammates and pointing fingers and blaming people. And
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Richo!
Now, if he's going to be a top defender in our competition, then he has to bloody well knock that out of his game. Because the opposition will see that and they'll exploit it. They'll. Now, the one person that we haven't spoken about with the Collingwood side is DeGoey. Now,
there's another X Factor player.
Someone should buy him a trip to Bali.
I'm sure that you can accommodate him over there, Joe.
rw4utours.com.au.
Yes.
Bring him over. I'll entertain him for the weekend. Send a few others with him as well.
Look, the big thing for me, guys, is the rotation through their midfield. I think that's going to really test our mids. And as I said, I had a question mark over Walsh's bloody fitness and whether he will line up. And I would suspect that they'll try and exploit it if he is playing and make him work hard and see whether they can test him out. Obviously, Maynard out of their back line is now, do we do what we did last time and not give someone an assigned job on Moore in the forward line? Perhaps we could play Young there and just get him to nullify Moore's influence in the game.
Defensive forward, maybe.
Absolutely.
This all relies on Jack Silvani too. Like, he may be fit. Well, we don't know.
Jack would be a good defensive forward against a guy like Moore, but the question is, can he compete with him in the air? I don't know.
Well, don't kick it in the air near bloody Moore like we did last time and made him best on ground.
Well, that's one thing we definitely have to do, is that if we transition the ball into the forward line, we've got to lower our eyes and make leads and get forwards to lead away from the play, if you like, to open up the space in the middle and allow someone like Charlie to come in and mark it in front of his chest rather than have to fly for everything all the time. I think that has to be one lesson learnt from the previous game, don't you think, Brownie?
Absolutely. And the other thing is that we've got to make the Collingwood back line accountable for the work. I mean, they're notorious for being able to springboard off their half back line, and led by Moore and let's not discount Murphy's game either. Murphy played a pretty good game this week. He was actually in the votes on the footy show. And it wasn't so much the amount of possessions that he gained; it was more his defensive work in just that, intercept fist in a ball or the tackle or something like that was able to nullify some of their forward thrust. So whilst you go and analyse their side, there's a real challenge for Carlton to sit down and actually get this right at the selection table, because it's going to be a fine line between getting it right and actually being exposed. And I think that like I said before, our midfielders are going to be really, really important in this game.
We've seen over the last 5 weeks that a lot of our small forwards and a lot of our midfielders have contributed to the score. That's why we've been kicking such big bags like 18 and 21 goals yesterday.
Yeah, but they won't get the latitude.
That's really going to... Sorry?
They won't get the latitude against Collingwood, though.
Oh, look, I realise that, but they're still going to have to contribute if we're going to win the game. And if we can just look to that, just focus on how we can win. I'd like to discuss, how is Collingwood gettable? I mean, they aren't exactly smashing sides. They're not exactly... not giving opposition a look in. They are giving opposition sides a look in. These opposition sides are just not good enough to slam the door on them. And in a lot of cases, they're just getting over the line, or with a bit of luck, like last night, getting over the line. Now, it's not that they can't be beaten. So where do you think they can be beaten, and how can Carlton beat them next Friday night, Brownie?
Well, I think one of the important things that came out of the Port Adelaide game was Rosie and Pel Pepper.
Yes.
And
geez, he's impressive, that Pel Pepper. Such a player with grunt, isn't he?
Yeah, but he is as strong as an ox. He runs at full pace and actually hits the pack at really hard pace. And
he's one of those players you probably don't like because he's in the opposition, but geez, I'd love to have him playing for you.
Oh, absolutely. And Butters and Rosie are very important for that Port Adelaide
side.
Oh,
they're silky skilled, aren't they? They're silky.
Particularly out of the centre. Some of their clearance work was exceptional against Collingwood. And I thought that they actually exposed Collingwood on a couple of occasions. I thought his game against Port Adelaide wasn't all that flash. And I think that if it wasn't for the fact that Pendlebury what's his name? The guy that's just played 200.
You mean Taylor Adams?
Adams, yeah, sorry. I thought Taylor Adams' work in the second half was better than it was in the first half. So to expose Collingwood, we're going to have to move the ball quickly, and we're going to have to make sure we hit targets, and we're going to have to catch the Collingwood backman out of position. So, in other words, if we can get out the back of the Collingwood defenders, I think you will find that we will expose them where that's concerned. And it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, there was some of Collingwood's forward thrusts weren't efficient, and they were actually exposed on a couple of occasions, particularly
against Port Adelaide.
Yeah.
Well, let's just hope it was a heavy ground last night. Maybe that might have taken a lot out of them playing in the wet.
It's probably a good time to get them when they come off a big clash. Like, I've always been a great believer that the best time to get Essendon or Collingwood is straight after an Anzac Day clash. Best time to get Adelaide or Port Adelaide is straight after a showdown. So, you know, who knows? After a big game like that last night, they might be vulnerable.
I think that McRae, being a smart man as he is, and I know Joe wanted to wipe the smile off his face, but I think that McRae will make sure that Collingwood players fully respect the Carlton side going into this clash. And he will make sure that these players come out and have the utmost respect for the Carlton side.
I don't know. Anyway, I suppose Peter said,
I think he's done very well at keeping them grounded so far, because I don't think they've taken any opposition lightly. That's for sure.
Absolutely,
I don't think anyone does. But
they're not the sort of side that against really good opposition. I don't think they're the sort of side that puts anyone away. They always give them a chance to win. I mean, even last night, Port Adelaide was so close to winning that game. Yep. It's not funny. But Collingwood always seem to find a way to keep their noses in front by the final siren. But it's not like you're not giving the opposition a go. They do give the opposition a look in. And if we're good enough to take advantage of our opportunities next week, who knows? But
if
we're all going to have to, all of our players are going to have to be right on song.
If we can play like we did in the first half yesterday, irrespective, I know it was West Coast, we'll beat anybody. On our day, we're a good team. We've just got to stop picking out, when we go forward, we just got to stop picking out that, what's his name, Darcy Moore. That's what killed us last time.
That comes down to lowering their eyes.
Absolutely.
And kicking the ball to a leading target.
And creating space. Creating space is going to be the important thing.
Maybe they play Charlie as a decoy next week. Because they're going to say, well, Vince, let's be honest. They know he kicks our goals, right?
But it's all about how Charlie gets his goals next week. If we expect to just kick it up in the sky and he's going to be flying for mark after mark, we're kidding ourselves. It's to a leading Charlie Curnow. That's where we're going to be best served, to a leading Charlie Curnow.
I think from our forward line perspective, I think we've got to isolate Charlie one out. I think that's the one thing that we actually have to do. More
exactly, but they won't let us. They will instruct. They will have two on him.
No. They may do that, Joe. But then they may do that. They may do that, but then what we've got to be smart enough to do is bring our forwards up the ground a little bit further, so that we're not in a situation where we're kicking it in long. What we're doing is that we're hitting a smaller target in a little bit closer, and then rotating the forwards through there and keeping it out so that we've actually got space to run into. And I think that's going to be the important thing.
I'm not so sure, Lana. Darcy Moore won't have the same day out as he did last time. Trust you. Well, I don't trust you, because those players, they love bombing the ball long. But let's hope that they don't. So on that, Peter, who's going to win and why?
It's really, really interesting. I've gone with Carlton for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I'm actually going to go Collingwood.
Okay.
I'm actually going to tip Collingwood to win this game, and I'm going to suggest that the matchups are going to be the important aspect of this game, and I think that Carlton will be exposed. I think that our midfield and the leadership on the ground is going to be stronger, unfortunately. Whilst everyone's going to howl me down and everything like that, I think the leadership from the Collingwood side will probably be stronger on the ground, and that will be the difference between the two sides.
Okay. Vince?
I'm going to ask you to put in your tip, Joe.
I'm going to put in Carlton for one reason. I can't say the other C word. It won't come out of my mouth. I can never pick them to win. So
your parents educated you never to say the C word.
I will never pick the Filth. I will never pick the Filth when they play Carlton. And I don't care. They can be first and we can be 18th. I won't pick them. It's been indoctrinated into me. I had a baseball bat. My parents had a baseball bat and whacked it into me. I can never say, oh. You know how Fonzie can't say sorry, right?
Yes.
I can't say the other. I can't say. Yeah, there's only one good thing that comes out of Collingwood, Johnson Street.
All right.
It's the best thing to come out of Collingwood.
So you're going for Carlton. Brownie's going for Collingwood. I don't know. You're both in front. So one of you is going to be in front of the other by the end of this round.
I've just got
to hope to tip the right team so I can keep up with you. Look, I'll go for Collingwood. Look, I can't stand going for Collingwood, but I just cannot. I cannot bring myself to tip illogically this time around. I just I think they're basically a far better team than everyone else at the moment.
Are you a life member of the club, Vince? Yes.
Yes.
Are you a life member, Peter?
Yes.
They should dishonour them, rip them up immediately, but even thinking of tipping.
We're talking about tipping here. We're not talking about where our heart is. My heart is always with Carlton, but my head on this occasion is with Collingwood, and I'm going to tip them. Go for it, Brownie. What's that?
It's funny, isn't it? 6 weeks ago we were here screaming the bloody stand down and agreeing with supporters that wanted to tar and feather our bloody our coaching staff and our administrative staff and their football directors and everything like that. And you have a few wins and it all goes away. Let me tell you, boys, if they don't do something drastic at the end of the year in terms of that personnel, again, I caution everybody, we will find ourselves in the same position as what we are or what we have been this year. And I still haven't been able to put my finger on why all of a sudden there's been a change of attitude and a change of approach to the game. Yeah, Joe, you got a comment on that?
I've got the answer. Because Leo Sayers is in Italy.
Maybe they've been listening to our show a bit. I don't know, but
who knows?
He'll
be in jail next year anyway, won't he? With that Price Waterhouse scandal.
I have no idea. I'm not across all of that. It's way above my pay grade. But quite honestly, boys, one of the things that I've got a question mark against is that, whilst we have been stringing a few wins together, this doesn't bloody well make up for the insipid games that they had and the return on investment earlier in the season. So, whilst it might make it look a little bit more palatable at this stage, it puts us in a really, really awkward position going into this next 4 or 5 games. And, we got no one else to blame but ourselves because we've put ourselves in this position. So they have to now perform well above possibly the expectation of everybody to be able to cement where we are. So, as I said, I just caution everybody against that. And I still think that there is still room for improvement where that's concerned.
Joe, one thing I'd like to... Sorry?
I just want it publicly known that I am the only one that went for Carlton. And so when we win next week, I will be giving it to the two of you.
Now, Brownie, this is coming from the bloke who 2 weeks ago said, I'm tipping Port Adelaide against Carlton. And you were the only one who tipped Carlton, in fact.
You didn't listen to me. I can't tip that other team that we're playing next week. Even when I used to, I would never win. I never win footy tips because any close game I used to tip against the Filth or the Scum, Essendon Scum. I just can't tick them.
Can you see the hair bristling up on the back of his neck at the moment?
It's just. Oh, no,
all right, Joe. All right. Look, my tip is based more on the fact that we've got a lot of injury concerns. If we were a fully fit list and we had a full strength team going into this game, I reckon we'd have a big chance of knocking them off. I really mean that, because I think that they're coming off a big game against Port Adelaide where they've had to travel there, play a big game in wet conditions. It was a very taxing game on the bodies, and I think that they are gettable with only a 6-day break. Where both teams are only going to have a 6-day break. But I think we'd be going into the game fresher, having played West Coast and having probably, as we alluded to earlier, probably put the cue in the rack for the second half. But the fact is we do have injury concerns to Walsh and Silvani and Motlop and Martin and these sorts of guys who are vital to the team. And if they don't play, or even half of them don't play, that weakens the side. And I just don't think that we can beat Collingwood without having a full-strength list.
Well, don't forget you've got Chera and you've also got Cripps in amongst there as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Supposedly got injury
That's right.
Concerns.
Yeah.
And look, the other comment that I'd like to make before I wrap up here, but the other comment I want to make is this is traditional old rivals. This is Collingwood and Carlton. Yep. Let's not lose sight of the fact that this is, probably one of the premier games of the year. It doesn't matter where they are on the ladder, whether they're at, even whether they're
absolutely
top, everything like that.
No Do you think the younger generation still think that? Honestly?
Yeah, I do, because they've had it drummed into them by their parents and grandparents, like us.
No, I'm talking about the players. I don't think they do.
The players? Oh, well.
Yeah.
Probably not as much. Probably not as much. I think that's probably been already discovered by now in some of the interviews we've seen with Jacob Wiedering and others. They don't feel the rivalry as much as they should.
I think that Collingwood's mindset is slightly different to possibly what I'm advocating here, which is the rivalry. I think Collingwood players are actually truly think that they are a side that plays for one another and plays for the bloke that's actually coaching them. So they've got a mindset of, we can do anything, we can achieve anything. And their results have reflected that, particularly in close games where they've been, as you said before, Joe, they've found a way to win the game and be in front when the sirens are, and if you see some of their celebrations in the rooms after the game and all of that sort of thing, it's inclusive of all of their family members, it's inclusive of their children, it's inclusive of club officials and everything like that. So they've been able to create an atmosphere at that club which is suggesting that these guys are capable of doing anything. The challenge put before Carlton is that they now have to nullify that and then be able to springboard off that. So I think the real challenge is that instead of becoming a club of touchy-feely, how about they go out with the vision of hitting them hard and trying to bloody well, knock them off the touchy-feely perch and get on with actually winning the game of football. To your point before, Joe, you can't say that Collingwood were.
No, I can't say that.
But the result...
I refer to them as the Filth.
The result is that they can go in with a touchy-feely. We can go in with what we need to do to be able to win the game. Now, whether that's scratch, bite, kick, fight, do whatever we got to do, we will do it. We'll see if Carlton can win the game.
Don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't think the players don't want to win. I just don't think that. And this is in all sport. I even see this in football overseas. Like soccer, in some of the things. I just don't think that the players actually hold the right, these traditional rivalries the same. And I guess it's probably here in our game, it's because we don't play at Princess Park, Victoria Park, Windy Hill, like Peter, you can remember going to Victoria Park, you probably got spat at and they probably poured urine all over you.
Absolutely.
They don't do that anymore. So
and that was only after he played his part in the club.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, guys, on the weekend, there was a couple of pieces of vision. I don't know whether you caught it or not, but there was a player, two opposing players. One was put into the fence and the other bloke went up and picked him up and from the opposition side.
That's right.
It's rubbish. I can't see that team we're playing next week. So I can't even say it. That's the Filth.
Well,
the team that Tanya barracks for, that's the Scum, right?
The team that Tanya barracks for is the Scum. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Essendon Scum.
Essendon Scum. And the other team that we're, they got a black jumper with a yellow stripe, right? That's yellow and crap. Right? Not yellow and, but I call that. I can't say just. You can blame my parents. When I was watching football, I wasn't allowed.
Is that what you used to say in the when the Tigers theme song was playing? Who? Yellow and crap.
Yeah.
Instead of yellow and black.
I don't even know their nickname.
Okay.
Insignificant. They're just, don't worry about them.
Okay, Joey.
Hang on. Eduardo said urine. What the fuck? Yes, Eduardo. That's what the Collingwood supporters at Victoria Park used to do. They used to piss in cans and then spray opposition players. I don't know how old you are, Eduardo, but you want to go down to Victoria Park in the 60s and 70s and, ask me one day we'll tell you all about it.
Joe, what do you expect? Half of the crowd was on parole and the other half was out on bail. So,
I know. So, anyway, I'm lucky they didn't have ankle monitors in those days. Would have set those alarms off everywhere.
Yep. All right.
TC is absolutely correct. I am one-eyed Carlton. I'm sorry. Not when I watch the game. I know where there's free kicks. I'm not like these supporters where we grab someone around the neck and they go, oh, that's holding the ball. I'm not that stupid, but no, I don't like other teams. Anyway, on that note, Peter, once again, thank you very much for your contribution. People are very happy. Someone says you're negative, but I think you just tell it as it is. Hang on. I've just had my relationship with Tanya's over.
Essendon Scum, Joe? No. I'm not in love with you now. Or I'm not love you, or whatever. I'm not quite sure how that sentence. How does that make any sense? I'm not love you now. Anyway, I think she's trying to speak to you in an English version of Thai.
Might be like,
I'm not love you now.
Yeah, love you long time.
Yeah.
One of the things that this show is able to do, though, is be subjective. And if I have an opinion on something, then that's fine. I'm happy for criticism and scrutiny where that's concerned. That's one man's opinion. Everyone's entitled to an opinion, and if people get offended because I actually tell it like it is, then so be it.
Ever since you gave Tanya your brownie points in the bye week, she's fallen in love with you, Brownie. So I've lost her. She's completely head over heels for you now, mate.
Just before we finish, with
whenever you want to take her to an Essendon game, just let me know.
Nancy says, I wish I was around for those days. I was born in 2002. By God, Nancy, you missed a lot. That even going to the toilet at Victoria Park was a hazard. Because it
was a health hazard.
I don't know how many blues I nearly got into at Windy Hill just because I had a Carlton. I didn't even do anything. And it was it's probably not nice, but anyway, Peter.
Well,
until next week, let's hope that the Blues win. Have a good week, and thank you very much for your contribution.
Well, it's good being back in the senior side again from being dropped to the reserves last week.
Better watch it. We might drop you to the reserves next week. Team balance. In your days, it was team balance, wasn't it? Not managed.
Absolutely.
Team balance.
No, it wasn't. It was called dropped. It was called omitted. Great to have you back, Brownie, as usual, and appreciate your insights and foresights as well. And no doubt we'll catch up next week, hopefully after a big Carlton win over Collingwood, but who knows? We'll see you next Sunday night.
And if anyone's a parole officer who's watching our show, if they'd like to take their warrants to the MCG next Friday, I'm sure you'll get your man or woman or child who is wanted. All right.
That's right.
Peter.
Well, see you guys.
Good on you, Brownie.
Sorry. Windy Hill was such a great ground win. What the hell? Do you know? I'll tell you a story about Windy Hill, right?
Good sister, bad sister. That's an interesting name. Yep.
Yeah. I was dating a girl, and against my better judgment, although she wasn't really a football fan.
Against your better judgment, you were dating a girl. What did you think you ought to be dating a boy instead?
Because her father was a one-eyed Essendon supporter. Right?
Oh, right. Okay.
And she wanted to buy him the DVD of Essendon's last premiership or something. And she wasn't sure about when it was and all that.
Or back to back in 84 and 85 or something, yeah?
Whenever. And she said to me, will you come to the shop with me to buy it? And I said, I suppose. Little did I know, she was taking me to Windy Hill. Anyway, I said to her, where are you going? And she said, well, I'm going to the ground. Anyway, we got to the ground. I refused to get out of the car. And she said, what are you doing? I said, I'm sorry, I can't step foot in there. And she thought I was joking. I said, no, I'm serious. I said, I absolutely hate this club. I point blank refused to walk into the shop. And she said, really? And she said, yeah. Next thing I know, she went in and she dragged this young guy out from the shop. Yeah. I had to wind down my window, and he said, she doesn't know what she's after. And I said, she wants some bloody video of Essendon's last premiership wins. I don't know. And he said, why wouldn't you come in the shop? And I said, because I absolutely hate them. And he said, yeah, me too. I'm a St Kilda supporter. I said, you should be ashamed of yourself. He said, nah, screw him. He goes, at least I'm taking the money off him. So that's just refused. Anyway, Vince, now we're going to
what would we do without our fiercest rivals, Essendon and Collingwood and Richmond? I mean, really, if it wasn't for our rivals, we'd probably have nothing much to cheer about. But it's one of those situations where you can't live with them and you can't live without them, and you hate them, but you don't know what you'd do without them as well. So, no doubt that's one of the reasons why shows like Forever Rivals is thriving, hosted by Rocco every Wednesday night at 7:00.
We'll get to that in a minute. But now it's time for... Lo and behold, Vince has finally come through with a win. Wish upon a dream got up. We were looking into the abyss there, Vince. We nearly had to. And anyway,
now I said to put $100,000 on this one, didn't I?
Well, all the people could pay off their mortgage if they did, because it paid fixed price. It paid $4.40.
No, we go on the tote. We go on the tote price, $4.80.
Yeah, no, I know. And the tote was $4.80. So you redeemed yourself, Vince.
Thank you, Joe. We're back in business. We haven't quite got back our original investment, but we're on our way back.
I was trying to find we're in the money, but I didn't know if that had a copyright on it, and I didn't want.
Well, hopefully that's a good omen for Carlton supporters to wish upon a dream. I'm sure we're all dreaming about making the finals and eventually getting a premiership. So let's just hope that we can get to the first step, which is to make the final 8. And I think the way we're going, even if we do lose to Collingwood this Friday night, I don't see any reason why we can't win the majority of our remaining games and make the 8.
So Vince,
what's this,
TC
Vince? You
says
must have gone to church to pray for this win. Thank you, DC. But no, I didn't quite go to church, and I wasn't praying for it, but I was certainly, as the name suggests, wishing upon a dream that it would get up. So the horse did the right thing. The driver did the right thing. It was actually quite an impressive win if you looked at the replay. But
easy.
There you go.
And
never in doubt. Never in doubt, Joe.
And is that this week's Aim and Bet?
No. This is this week's Aim and Bet at Northam in Western Australia. It's on Tuesday.
I got the date right.
You got the date right for a change, the 25th of July.
You didn't put the date. I had to look it up. So I'm thinking,
right.
What day is it on? Anyway, but I got the date right, finally.
Anyway, race 6, number 5, All Is Well. And I think it is all well at the moment at Carlton. So
how much you putting on it? 100,000?
Now, can I just ask, before we decide how much to put on it, I meant to ask you, what is our balance after that win?
We have $58 in the kitty.
$58. Okay, well let's round it back to a balance of 50, and we'll put $8 for the win. How's that?
Sure, soft.
$8 for the win on All Is Well, number 5. And if this thing comes in, I reckon we'll get back maybe another $30-odd. So we'll be getting closer and closer to their original investment, Joe. But at the same time, if it doesn't win, we've still got $50 in the kitty.
Anyway.
All right.
So Vince, that brings us near to the end of the show.
Yep.
But before we do that, we'll just do a little bit of housekeeping. First, we'd like to thank Peter Brown for coming on.
As always. Yep.
And we'd like to thank all the people that have contributed with comments and views. And, sometimes people, we encourage all views. You can think Peter's negative. I don't think he cares. You can think I'm negative or positive. It's all good banter. We don't take it to heart.
Yep, as long as we're all objective.
Yeah, exactly. But before we go, let's remind the viewers of what's coming up this week.
Indeed.
Tuesday night on the Blue Abroad channel, we have the Jumper Punch at 7 p.m. with the Führer, Rocco. And do you know who's hosting the show with him? He hasn't told me.
Absolutely no idea.
Thanks, Rocco. You haven't told me. So Rocco plus 2. So when
Rocco plus 2. I'm sure you'll have 2 worthwhile guests, because I didn't know who he was going to have on last week, and it ended up being Mars's brother, Michael Sebastiani, together with Fab from the podcast called the Ian Prendercast. So, and that's a really good podcast if you want to listen to a good Carlton podcast.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Fab was on, and he was terrific as well. So, look, whoever it is, it'll be worthwhile guests that Rocco invites on, and it's always very entertaining as usual. The Jumper Punch, going from strength to strength.
Exactly. Then on Wednesday night, you've got 2 hours or 3 hours of Rocco in 2 shows. The first show, Forever Rivals. It'll be interesting to see how the boys go this week. All 4 of them. I don't think.
Well, Rocco... I think it'll be Mark copping the brunt of it, because Carlton, Collingwood, and Richmond all had wins, and Essendon copped a big loss against the Western Bulldogs. So, ever since he's had his 50th birthday party, poor Mark's copping it silly, being an Essendon supporter.
I'm sure Manny will get into Rocco about the Carlton Collingwood game this week. So
that will be worth tuning into the show for, just to hear the banter between Rocco and Manny over the Carlton Collingwood game coming up this Friday night. That'll be certainly something to watch. Yep.
And then after Forever Rivals, we're going to have at 8 p.m. Legends of the Jumper Punch. And again, Rocco, you haven't told me who you're interviewing. Do you know who the interview is, Vince?
Of course I do, Joe.
Well,
it's with Rod Curly Austin. Do you remember him?
Oh, number 21.
Number 21 for Carlton.
Well,
he had another mop of curly hair similar to Vinny Catoggio, but not quite as frizzy. But at the same time, he was known as Curly. So He was a fantastic stalwart for Carlton, a great defender, played 220 games and was a real rock down there in the defence, along with guys like Jeff Southby and Bruce Dool and Wayne Harms and guys like that over the 1970s and early 80s. And I think his career went into the mid-80s, into 85 before he retired. So a really great player.
Kicking style.
Very interesting and unusual kicking style, very effective kicking style. But he played in the 79 Premiership, unfortunately missed out, like his good mate Jeff Southby, on the 81 and 82 due to injury. But he was a very good player and, a hell of a nice guy and an absolute gentleman. And
then, Vince, next Sunday at 7:30, you have Blue Sunday.
Back to us again to wrap up the Collingwood-Carlton clash. And let's hope we're finally going to salute against Collingwood. And wouldn't it be nice to have Brownie coming off a Carlton win against the old enemy? It would be interesting to see what he's got to say after something like that. But win, lose or draw, we'll get Brownie on to give us his thoughts, no doubt.
Okay. And before we go, as I said earlier, don't forget to like, share on Facebook. We're at
subscribe.
Blue Sunday.
Don't forget to press that subscribe button on
like, share,
both
subscribe.
Facebook
and watch our show.
And YouTube.
And we've also got the YouTube, which is at The Jumper Punch. Yep. So, Vince, till next week.
Joseph, enjoy the rest of your day. I hope the thunderstorms have eased down there in
no. It's not
Bangkok.
Here and it's very, very, very dark. So
I'm in for a big night, Joe. I'll be probably very bleary-eyed in the morning after watching the British Open Championship golf over there in Liverpool. It's a fantastic tournament. Great, very difficult course. But the Aussies are in contention. Jason Day's up in the top page, if you like, the top 10. And a couple of other Aussies are in contention as well. So let's hope that at least one of them can be right up there by the time the tournament comes to an end.
Well,
there's a bit of a runaway leader at the moment, but 5 shots. I know it sounds like a lot, but when you've got a whole 18 holes to go on a course that's that difficult, 5 shots can be swallowed up in no time. So
good luck.
Anyone who's watching the golf will know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a fantastic tournament, the British Open Championship.
And also, let's hope that it pisses down rain in Manchester today so that the test is a washout.
I was just going to say, tell you what, the Aussies have been blessed with the weather, because if it wasn't for the rain, they have been completely outplayed by the English. And honestly, the English deserve to win this match. I actually would love to see that, because I think it'd be fantastic for the series to see it go to a 5th test. I think it'd be a fitting way to sort out these two sides is for them to play a final 5th test.
And I thought it was very fitting that Fatty didn't get his 100. I couldn't have been happier.
Oh, the 99 not out.
I just wished he had got run out.
But anyway, poor bugger. But anyway, what do you do?
Don't like him. So anyway, on behalf of Vince Loccisano, Peter Brown, who's not with us, and myself, it's good night, and we will see everyone next week.
And